friends, and family. Welcome to FILAM, Filipino Influential Leaders and Mentors, Episode 2, The Friendship Games from the Top. My name's Neil Estrada, President of FILAM, and I got my boy, Edwin Baloloy. Edwin, say hello.
What's up, everybody? Good to be on here.
And we also have our guest, current President of Cal State Fullerton PASA, Mr. Adrien Chan.
How's it going, everyone? It's good to be here.
Yep, you can tell Adrian's a little bit shy, man, but I mean, you know, he's got a lot of personality. And then we also have one of the originators in the house, Mr. Glenn Paredes.
Hey, how you doing? What's going on?
All right, so friendship games from the top. And Glenn, let's start with you. When did the friendship games actually start?
So the friendship games actually started October 1986. It was actually a little history behind it. What happened was back in the day, there was the SC PASA. You know, you had SC PASA, and Fullerton wanted to add to some of the things that were going on back then. So UCLA, Cal State Northridge used to host a volleyball basketball tournament. UCI hosted a bowling tournament. So Cal State Fullerton said, you know, we want to do something. So they came up with this concept of the friendship game. So it actually started October 1986.
Wait, who's this guy over here?
Yeah, that good-looking guy in the orange shirt and the blue shorts. That would be me with the pompadour and the rat tail in the back. 1986.
I like your fit.
Hey, Neil, let me know if you want to stay right
Glenn,
here.
so,
I'll those other tricks.
Yeah, go ahead. You just go through the pictures. But I got a question for Glenn. So back in '86, man, you know, like, tell us who actually thought of the idea. I think this has to be known. We always got to give props and pay homage to the person who came up with the concept. Because if you look at where friendship games is today, one idea could make like a world of difference. Friendship games today, you're at the largest collegiate gathering of Filipino Americans nationwide, hands down, period, end of story. So who came up with this concept?
So, you know, going back to 86, I personally didn't join the club until the spring of 86. So fall of 86, at the time, the person that brought me in, his name is Don Palpalato, and he was outgoing president. He became the sports coordinator. The board at the time was President Manny Gaudier, and the board included Annabelle Caberte, Eric Escandor, Lord of Sacramento, Rosanna Steva. The board and Don collectively said, you know, we want to do this thing called, here's what the original title was, guys, Battle of the Schools.
Battle of the Schools.
Wow.
This was the original. This is what it was originally called. But, and it was to pay homage to a TV show from the 70s called Battle of the Network Stars. So it was to pay homage to some of the things that went on with the Battle of the Network Stars. They wanted to do picnic games. So that's where that whole concept came in, and that's this group came up with that idea. And along the way, you know, some of the other members that came along to help create the games included my future brother-in-law, Mike Villa, Rex Rubio, and one more. I wanted to say, oh yeah, I already said President Manny Gaudier.
How many colleges was it?
Hey, so there's a rumor that. Sorry, Edwin. Go ahead.
Yeah, how many colleges were the first ones to partake, Glenn?
So at the original one, because Fullerton was aligned with SD PASA, that included obviously Cal State Fullerton, UC Irvine, Cal State Long Beach, UCLA, and Cal State Northridge.
Oh man!
And Cal State LA. One more, Cal State LA.
Sorry, Neil. Go ahead.
Hey, Adrien, tell me if you heard different. But you know what I heard, Glenn, and maybe you could put the rumor to bed. I heard the first friendship games, like the one that was thrown, wasn't really against other Filipino clubs. So was that not true? I thought you guys competed against other clubs on campus. I guess maybe that was a false rumor.
I mean, the history that I learned from like we have like a history doc and all that. We were told also that there was like we did go against other clubs on campus in the beginning, like that, like back in the early days. I don't necessarily know if it was like the first, like during the first FG, like we went against like internal schools, but for the most part, I did hear a lot about how he said like it started with like just a couple of schools and then started growing and growing more and more. But I do know for sure. Well, obviously I don't know because I wasn't there at the time. But from what I heard, we did like do friendship games with like internal schools like at first.
So Adrien, you're not that far off. There was another, not necessarily another, but also around that time, that same concept, they tried to do it among the clubs within the campus. And this is the irony of it all. One of the things that had occurred was when they tried to initially do it, only one other club showed up. So it was that's how small we were, you know.
No, I
mean,
feel that. I feel that.
So I mean, I remember our club at the time, I was roughly 30 to 40 members, and it was actually in conjunction with Fullerton JC. You know, the PASA actually started back in 1981-82. So it was small. And then when we tried to do stuff with other minority clubs, it was small time. So I mean, relative to what it's become, yes. So you're not that far off.
Hey, Glenn, give us a figure of how many people actually attended the first friendship games to your knowledge.
So, you know, if you got 6 schools, you know, we had roughly about 100 to 150 people. It started early in the day, and it was a one-day event. You know, no one really pictured it to be, you know, obviously what it's turned into, but it was small in the sense that, you know, all of the clubs, you know, that rolled onto the scene just, you know, drove up, and we, you know, did the games. We had the games going. You know, a lot of the games like I'm seeing in the videos, obviously are carried on today from the past, but it was pretty small. I mean, where the at Cal State Florida, where the new recreation center is, I want to say we used that area as part of where we used to park, where everybody well parked, and then in front of the student center where you guys are, we utilized that area park to have the games. We didn't have it on the big field like they do now. I mean, well, it wasn't necessary. We only had like 100 people. It was small.
Right. Check this out, Adrien. I'm going to go to you. How many people? I mean, aside from like this year's games, but when you were participating, let's just say last year, how many people attended last year's games?
So it's grown a lot since the beginning. I'm sure a lot of you know. Last year alone, we had about 4,500 people. So like roughly we estimate like, yeah, every year, ever since I've been there since my first year, we've been having like close to 5,000 people every year, because we have like 38 to 40 schools that come every year. And, you know, obviously as friendship games grows, like we get more, like as we get more attention from friendship games, like we obviously get more sponsors and we can make the event even bigger than it was before. And then more people start to know about it. So, I mean, as the years grows, like we just keep building off that foundation, and it keeps turning into something bigger, which is why like a lot of people like are starting to take notice of it, and like why more people are like going to their colleges and being like, I want to join the Filipino club because I want to go to friendship games because I heard about it from like other people before. So, yeah.
Yeah, but you know what, man? That's 30 to 45 times growth, right? It's kind of crazy. It's like you add another 100 people like every year. So I think next year is going to be the 35th year. Correct me if I'm wrong, right? 35 years. I think my math is right. So you know what we should probably do, Adrien and Glenn, man? We should probably throw a reunion party for Cal State Fullerton and maybe gather up some of the past, you know, Filipino PASA leaders, FILAM leaders, and bring them to the games. You know what I mean?
Actually,
Edwin and I actually had some plans for friendship games, but
actually the 35th FG was actually this year. The virtual FG, that was the 35th FG. So next year's is actually going to be the 36th.
COVID,
so
that struck. What do you think of that?
I'm sorry?
What's that?
I think there's like a communication, or like there's like a delay, but can you repeat your question?
I said, so like if we did a get together for like the 35th year, you know, throw some history in the mix, man. I mean, that would be pretty cool, right?
Yeah, that would be amazing. We actually just had our 35th FG. That was actually this year. That was the virtual FG. So we did this whole anniversary special. The live stream's actually still up on our YouTube. The live stream's still up on our YouTube. Like we had like past chords, well, as far as we could get. Like say like, hey, like congrats and stuff, or as far as like we could get with contact with, which is like pretty limited, because you know our connections are like could only go so far. Like I don't think it would be kind of hard to reach out to people that are like 15, 20 years ago. But yeah, that was our 35th, 36. Like obviously we're trying to keep more in touch with like our roots, which is cool that we're doing this right now and talking to like Glenn and like the rest of you guys, because you know it's cool to know like where it all started. And I feel like, you know, like tying it in together, like tying in the old generation with the new generation, like there's nothing wrong that could go, like there's nothing bad that can go with that. So yeah, we're always exploring new options, and we'd love to include more like ways to, you know, incorporate maybe like bringing in some older like generation to talk about it, like during like maybe halftime, be like, hey, like it's crazy how everything's been and stuff. So
yeah, that'd be cool. I mean, I just saw many of the original founding members, you know, a few of them yesterday, and they are, I mean, they passed on. They said they're very happy that it's actually evolved into what it's become. I mean, who knew 35 years ago it was going to turn into this, right? No one had any idea that, you know, 10, 20, 30 years later, you're going to have schools traveling, you know, out of state, turning it into a 3-day event, having after parties. I'm like, what the heck are you talking about? I mean, this was just going to be picnic games, you know, with a Frisbee and a football. I mean, that's kind of the vision we had, you know, 35 years ago. And the next thing you know, I mean, folks are talking about after parties. I'm like, what? I mean, that's crazy. So
it really is.
Sponsored.
It's honestly crazy how big it is. Like when I first came to CSUF, I actually did not know about it at all until like, you know, the tables started coming to me and people were like, hey, there's FG. So I didn't really expect too much out of it. But then when I actually went the day of, I didn't realize how big it was. Like when I went just onto the field and like started seeing like all these 40 schools start coming in, I was like, oh, this is actually a bigger deal than I thought. And to know that it's been going on for so long, for like, yeah, 35 years, it's honestly crazy. And to know that there's still like a lot of people out there that don't have no idea what Friendship Games is and how actually really fun it is. And I'm sure there's people like in different colleges that are probably like they have no idea, like other Filipino clubs. So I think it's just such a crazy experience, and it's such a cool thing to have started. And I think like it's such a memorable experience that I feel like a lot of people should like at least experience once, you know. Friendship Games is like, to me personally, I think Friendship Games is one of a kind, and I really enjoy it. So it's really cool.
I agree. I mean, there's a picture right now of my two daughters in front of the Friendship Games sign. No, it's my two daughters, and one of them just graduated UC Irvine, and the other one's attending Santa Ana College. And I told them, I said, you know, I know you don't. I mean, this is kind of weird to you, but you know, I actually started this back with a bunch of other people back in the day, and they look at me like I'm crazy. But it's you know, now, you know, I look at that, like I'm looking at the picture right now. I mean, to the right of her is actually her friend CJ Lomboy. CJ Lomboy's mom was in the club with me at Cal State Fullerton back in the day when we did this. Marianne Galang, now Lomboy, Joselito Lomboy's wife. I mean, you know, that's friendship. You know, it's 35 years now. You know, the kids of the folks that started this are now attending this. That's why it's nuts.
Yeah,
it blows me away. So yeah,
that's really cool. That's really cool. It goes way back. That's crazy, and it's crazy to see that. It's crazy that you get to see like your daughter going to like the event that like you and a bunch of other people like created, and you didn't even think. I'm sure, like, did you even think that it was going to become as big as it is now? Like having like halftime shows and.
Even 10 years ago, when I know, like back in the early 90s, and this is where Neil would understand, when they started having Power 106 showing up at this thing, and then having this big stage with, you know, the dance like Cabo Modern. My niece, Carissa Paredes, 10 years ago, she performed on that stage with Team Millennia, and I'm like going, hey, did you know your Uncle Glenn helped start this thing? She's like, I don't know what you're talking about, but I was on the stage dancing up there. So, I mean, that's just how crazy it got, you know. I mean, it's just so huge. It's nuts.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask a question for you guys, if it's okay. That way we could kind of compare the generations and kind of like it is a generation that's gone by. You know, that's what you're describing. So let's do a little comparison. Adrien, in like a quick 30, 45-second summary,
We
bring
lose
us
Adrien.
through what goes through the day of friendship games, and then I want Glenn to explain the same thing just to show the contrast.
The in-person event, right?
Yeah, the in-person.
Okay, so
Yeah, of course.
so it's a whole semester of preparation now, like because of how big of an event it is. We have to work with our advisors constantly. We have to work with like our sponsors. We have to work with like so many different people to help create and produce such a big event. I mean, today, like in the in-person event now is a $40,000 event that we produce yearly. So we have to be, I know it's crazy. It's pretty crazy. So the day of, if we're talking about the day of, we as a board, so like my board, like we're like about 27 people, we have to show up onto the field. It's a big field, a big intramural field back at Cal State Fullerton. We have to show up at around like 4 or 5 a.m. to start preparing, like putting up, like start decorating and stuff. And then school starts showing up at 7 a.m. and everyone's like getting loud, like everyone's starting to get loud, getting riled up because, you know, it's only that it's a long day, but it's a fun day, you know? So school start getting riled up. And then once everyone gets in, like there's a bunch of heats. So we have like different heats. Like we still have like a lot of the same games, I'm pretty sure, from the beginning, but we have like some different games and everyone's really competitive. I'm sure it was like for fun back then. And it still is very fun, but there's a lot of schools that take this very seriously now, where to the point it's like they need to bring home that trophy because we have like big trophies and such. So, and then while the games are going on, we have like a bunch of the schools. Like I said, there's 40 schools, so a bunch of them are spuffing around, like basically having like a cheer off with like their themes. It's really cool because people are like seeing like their friends, and then we have a bunch of food vendors. So if anyone's hungry, people could go get food. A bunch of like food trucks and such. And then we have a bunch of dance teams, and all the schools dance on stage as well. And it's just this huge event. Our halftime performers have been getting we have really good halftime performers as well. Like we had Jeremy Passion before. During this FG, we had Chloe Kai, J.R. Aquino. It's just turning into such a big event and such a fun time. And it's something that honestly mostly all the schools look forward to every fall. They're always messaging us, like, you know, they're constantly messaging us about updates about FG and stuff. So it's just really crazy. And then we don't end until like about 8 or 9, do like the final rampage, and then have an after party to announce the winners. And yeah, that's basically like a day. That's basically like the gist of it. But there's a lot more that goes into it. Like the planning is like a lot like more in depth. But that's basically the gist of it. Like the main foundation's still there for the most part.
Now let's go back in time now. Glenn, what did it look like back then?
Classic. So back in the day, I mean, we would have our weekly meetings, you know, once a week. And those would be the times we would start ramping. We ramped up our first one by essentially having our meeting talking about, hey, we're going to have the friendship games. Hey, we're going to, you know, invite these 6 schools. And the sports committee as would take care of, you know, the preparation. But it was so dialed down. I mean, because I was just a Joe Blow member, right? So I was just like, hey, what do I need to do? Tell me where we can help out. But it was so minimal. I think about our board back then. They did all the work. I mean, you know, Don and Manny and Mike and Rex and all of them, and you know, Annabelle and all of them. And it's funny because I mean, this is pre, you know, cell phone, pre this, pre that. It was all just, hey, let's just meet up, you know, day of, make sure you have all the things that you need, and we're good to go. And it was the funny part is you talk about you had, you know, food vendors and all this stuff. I remember, from what I recall, I think we just kind of had like a 1 hour pause in the middle of the day and said everyone just kind of like went out to go grab a bite to feed some food at KFC down the street over there on State College or something. I mean, and come back. That's what it was. And we'd you know, come back and then finish off the day. It was very dialed down. Honestly, yeah. It was you know, it was more picnic like. You know,
what time is that ending then?
You know.
What time is that then? When Friendship Games ends?
Oh, you know, when the sun is actually going down around in late October, like around 6 o'clock. It ended right when the sun was going down. We didn't carry on to the night. I mean, it was done by then. So. Oh yeah, it was over. I mean, and that was that. You know, there was, I don't remember an after party to go to. So.
Yeah, and speaking of after parties, I don't know if Neil's going to jump back on here because it looks like he might be getting some network issues. I saw his face freeze up for a little bit. But then this is one of the after parties that I specifically remember. His cousin E-Man did it. And Glenn, when you're talking about Power 106 go over there, I remember that too because a big boy showed up. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, I think the last one I went into attended in the 90s was probably 93. And I was already blown away because I was like, what is all this humanity here for one thing? And then the music was, bouncing all over the place. I was like, we didn't have music. I was like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
It was off the hook. It was crazy.
Yeah, so Big Boy showed up, and I think that was the very last year that I remember it right there in kind of near that whatever that field is, because I didn't go to Cal State Fullerton, right there near the Student Union.
Yes.
And then one of the years I show up, and this is still when Neil was an officer, I think, when he was in the club. One year I show up, and I try to park near the old field. And I go, where the hell is everyone? And then someone on campus security or something said, no, they're over at Titan Stadium. I go, what the heck? So that was the first time I showed up at Titan Stadium. And remember, you're like parking off of Yorba Linda Boulevard. You're entering from there. And I'm just seeing like droves of people there. And I was like, what the heck? So that's where I saw it really just jump up. And that was during Neil Estrada's time. And then he had Bon Mercado, who's now at Google. He was one of the officers or presidents back then. I see actually Eric Peralta that's on Facebook Live, and one of your buddies, Glenn, Eric Escandor.
Yes,
yeah,
he was there.
Yeah, he's watching on live right now too. He said, "What's up?"
All right, yeah, he was one of the VPs back. Hey, Eric, he was one of the VPs back in the day at the beginning. He was front and center. I take no credit. They did all the work. I was just following their lead.
I'm just going to fire off another question because it looks like Neil's coming back on, so I get to jump off my soapbox. But then, because Neil and I started up this nonprofit, which is when it's more 90% Neil, more like 1% me. But then he started this nonprofit, FILAM, to do a lot of things like this. But then at some point, you guys had to incorporate friendship games, right?
That would probably be Neil, right?
No, Glenn. Is Friendship Games is it an organization or is it always just a subset of PASA?
It was just it was always a subset. I don't think it didn't go next level to actually get incorporated. It probably would have been subsequent boards that would have put that together.
Yeah, because when Adrien's talking about like a $40,000
crazy
budget and all that. Yeah, that's right.
Wow, we were lucky to get $500 just to do something. The other thing I want to make sure I mentioned, when we did the first Friendship Games, we didn't have this thing called spuffing. So when I heard this spuff thingy, and then I see when I actually went to last year, and I see these schools running around doing all these chants, and I'm going, what the heck's going on? And apparently it's the spirit thing that is occurring. That to me is that is an amazing thing to witness when you see all the different schools going back and forth doing that. That's one of the coolest things I've witnessed. Pretty
much like the life of Friendship Games there.
Pretty much. It is.
That's where all the energy comes from.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Neil, you're back, right? Your mic's off, or you can't hear your audio. Okay, maybe he's not back yet.
Frozen.
Yeah, unless your audio's off there. But then, Adrien, let's talk about how it went virtual this year. Obviously, there were challenges, and then this was the first time there. Yeah, talk a little about. Let me bring up that picture over here, and then Neil, whenever you get your audio on, go ahead and talk.
Virtual.
Okay, there you are.
So virtually this year, coming into the semester, we didn't really know what to expect. A lot of us, we didn't know. Yeah, we didn't know what we were gonna do. But we were luckily we were blessed to have really amazing and innovative friendship game coordinators. Shout out to Kylie and Marcel, they're the two right in the middle in that picture. They basically reimagined Friendship Games. They took all the core values that Friendship Games like is in person, like all the foundations, everything that we like, everything that FG stands for, and they incorporated it into a virtual event. They did most of like the coming up with the ideas and like what to do, and then the rest of the board and like us, we just helped them execute it. We thought like it took like a lot of trial and error, but we thought like one of the best things to do, and we thought what would be really entertaining was a benefit concert. We felt like instead of like we thought that the way that schools could represent themselves is by sending in someone like with a talent. That way it gives exposure to new people. Like let's say like there's like artists that like want to get like that are trying to like come up or like get more like fans and stuff, or just people that just want to like, put themselves out there. They could do that through this. And then we still tried to keep like games, like we did it through social media. We did it through like, for example, we did like a Like My Rep. So like every school would post like a picture. It could be like of their president, of their board, or a general member, and whatever post gets the most likes gets like a certain amount of points. And then we would do like other things like donation wars. We still tried to keep the values of it, and we also still wanted to keep as many people like participating in it. So it's like still participating in it, considering that it's virtual and stuff. But honestly, the benefit concert, it went really well. As you can see, like we had to do like a whole production crew, a whole production company, or like a whole production space. So we went somewhere in Huntington Beach, and we had like green screen, stage, everything, lights. And we basically ran this whole production on YouTube Live and Kumu, and a lot of this was thanks to or like a lot of like our sponsorship and stuff was thanks to like Mix TV, thanks to Collective Hustle, so they helped out a lot too. But yeah, virtually it was a big challenge, probably my hardest semester on board like to date, because I've done this before, but this is probably my hardest like to date, because it's like you're going in blind basically. You're going in with like, oh, you have like no idea like what to expect, like because you don't have anything to work from. You don't have like a blueprint to work from like you usually do. Because usually we work from the previous FGs and we kind of just build upon that. But since it's virtual, like we had to like basically just like start from scratch. So yeah.
Oh, nice. Neil, you're back.
Yep, I'm back. So the crazy thing about technology, it's awesome, but at the same time, man, like, what you guys didn't know behind the scenes is this laptop was on 10%, about to die. Everything was shutting down. I'm like, oh, damn, here we go again. But anyways, I want to talk about a couple moments that were super pivotal that I saw, going to Friendship Games. I don't want to date myself, but Edwin, go ahead and bring up that flyer when you have a moment.
Yeah.
If you can, and then I'll talk about it. So you're just going to see, Glenn, going back to the thoughted idea of Friendship Games, just what could happen just out of this idea. So this flyer right over here, and I got to shout him out. Shout out to my cousin DJ E-Man, Power 106, 93.9, KDAY, running things. But back in 96, is when I actually saw, Friendship Games become more mainstream. But I'm going to come back to this flyer because I don't want to jump another pivotal moment. So I'm going to come back to this, but thanks for leaving this on. In 91, Arnel Calaverio, the creator of Cabo Modern, along with, Cheryl Cambe, another fam, representing Ladies First City of Cerritos. And then we have Shannon representing the Bay Area, and a whole bunch of other dancers from Cabo. They came along in 91, and they did a performance to this mixtape done by DJ Melody, one of the homies, one of the best friends out here. And that just changed the game on the cheers forever. As soon as Cabo dropped that cheer, where they came out and they came hard and they hit hard with all their dancing, I just seen the performances elevate year after year after year after year. It pretty much changed the game. And when you look at where modern dance is today, man, a lot of that can be traced back to that performance at the Friendship Games in 91. That set it off. After that, you were seeing Culture, which eventually turned to Team Millennia. You've seen like Pac Modern, right? And all these other dance crews come about. So shout out to Arnel, shout out to UCI Cabo. You guys definitely upped the level for the Friendship Games cheers and pretty much changed the way performing was done at the Friendship Games. So Got to give a lot of props there. So that idea too from Arnell creating Cabo Modern, he told me at the time the president thought it was a joke, but look where that is today, right? Crazy. So these little ideas coming around lead up to like the bigger things that Filipino Americans are known for, right? So E-Man too, when he was in college, he got the silly idea of dropping off a mixtape at Power 106. Lo and behold, you know, the Baker boys call him within 90 minutes. And now he's changed the game for Filipino Americans in LA radio and radio for Filipino Americans like globally. But how this relates to the Friendship Games is E-Man comes on the scene. He was public relations for PASA one year, but in '96 he comes onto the Friendship Game scene, and this flyer emerges. Edwin, if you could scroll it down a little bit, this is pretty significant because this is where you see the Friendship Games yet take another big step, and the step now goes, you know, goes more into like the mainstream culture. If you look at this flyer, right, E-Man and Big Boy come and Power 106 comes. That's something new to Friendship Games. If you look at who else was on this flyer who actually DJ'd, you know, Beat Junkies, DJ Icy Ice, DJ Melody, world famous Beat Junkies actually DJ'd. Who else was over here? Shades. If you guys have any idea who Shades were, okay, they sang this song called Tell Me, which came out, I think, before LL Cool J's song. It had the same harmony or symphony, shall you call it. And I don't want to sing, man, because I can't sing. But, you know, just look it up. Look up Shades, Tell Me, and you'll know the song. They perform live. And I even forgot this young Filipina singer at the time. The legendary Jocelyn Enriquez actually performed at the Friendship Games. So if you could see the impact in '96 and how it exploded all the way across, you know, that just started taking things to a new level. All right. Next year comes around, '97. You know, we're doing Friendship Games again. E-Man spitting again. You know, this time around, he has, I think, Nice and Smooth perform. Legendary hip hop group. They come up and perform. The Beat Junkies, they end up performing. I think it was Ice, Curse, and Mello actually doing a performance. And since I don't have this flyer, right, you know, I can't really tell you all about it. But at the time when we were doing these after parties were actually on campus. So the first after party in '96 was done in the student union. And then the one in '97 was done inside of the basketball court. Right, we had all the lights on, but I mean, you know, it was a good time, and we had like a sea of people that were there, and just setting up these parties. I mean, me and my brother Ollie and my cousins, we were there at 3 a.m. And Adrien, I mean, you could probably attest to that, right? People get there like that early, and we didn't leave because we had to clean up, put away the chairs, put away the DJ equipment. We were there till like 1 a.m. the next day, so it was pretty much 22-hour day. By the time we were asleep, probably 24 hours had gone by. And so, you know, the guys who show up at the Friendship Games, you know, not part of a club, you know, all buffed out. Not going to mention any names, Edwin Baloloy. I mean, you know, would come up for a couple hours, get distracted, take a look at all the chicks, you know what I mean? And meanwhile, you know, me, Adrien, and Glenn are out there working the games.
Yeah, you can.
I'm just teasing you, man. But, man, that's just kind of a flavor of how it is. But, you know, out of this one idea, Glenn, you know, back in '86, you get this culmination of Filipino-American talent, art, influence, which now takes it from a group of 100, you know, to 4,500 people strong, right? And you got, you know, people coming from all across the nation, flying in, part of a club, not part of a club. They just want to be part of the Friendship Games culture and the Friendship Games community. And it's a beautiful thing to see. And so, like, you know, next year, if we could get this 35th reunion off, like, you know, hopefully, God willing, it happens. We can work with Cal State Fullerton since we're going to be all alum. You know, maybe you can get this thing off and just throw a little bit of that history and culture in there. And for some of the originators, Glenn, man, it'd be a good site for them to see where everything has gone, you know, and progressed. You know what I mean? And
I agree. I totally agree. It's not only escalated and elevated to where it is today. It's generational. I mean, I've got both my daughters participating. Hey, girls, why don't you come in and show yourself a little bit? But I got
bring them to the camera.
Participating. So they've become witnesses and they have participated, and it's been a joy just to see what it's become. Because now that my other friends also have kids that also go to colleges, and they have kids that have joined the club. They don't have to necessarily go to Cal State Fullerton, but they become part of the friendship game experience through other schools. And to say that we were part of that beginning, it's amazing. It's a joy. It truly is. So when you go home, but this just expands and takes it to another level. And I joined the club, and next thing you know, there was friendship games. So it was just kind of like, whoa. I mean, things were just happening back then. So. And I mean, as a result for me, I mean, the best thing that as a result of me, joining PASA and doing all this, I met the love of my life, my wife.
Oh man.
Man, see, friendship games worked out for you, bro.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, so
marriage games.
It worked out for me. So.
Hey, I got to share something with you guys really quick. So I know Adrien and Glenn, you'll probably appreciate this. I got one of my PASA shirts from back in the days, man.
That's old school, man.
Yeah, no, so old. The numbers are like rubbing off. So there's one. I know Edwin. Oh crap! Wow, Edwin will appreciate this one because it's a tank top.
I think I borrowed that.
Yeah, you might have, man.
Yeah,
but
nice.
So here's this one.
That one's kind of clean, actually.
Yep. 44. I had a number 69. I don't know why, but I mean I have it somewhere, and I'm sure a lot of people did. And then I got this one right over here, straight from the library. Still wear this to play ball. Still repping this till the day I go away. So, yeah, man, I still keep my Cal State Fullerton and PASA gear, man. So
very tight. Very tight.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, no, we're definitely
knowing your roots, keeping those roots.
Yeah, no, you have to, and then bring back my shirt. Know your roots. It all kind of ties into what we're talking about over here and friendship games and the culture and all. So I know we're a little bit past the time. I know we started like a little bit late. If we didn't, we wouldn't be Filipino. So my apologies to you guys out there listening. But thank you for hanging with us on episode 2. Ice, I don't know where you're at. Maybe you're streaming on Twitch again, which is cool, man. I don't want to disturb your livelihood. But, Ice was also a part of Friendship Games as well. He's DJ'd a lot of these events, and he's a household name and icon amongst the Filipino-American community. So with that being said, Edwin, any final thoughts before I go to Glenn and Adrien?
Yeah, no, I'm just looking at the chat over there. But then, yeah, thanks for everybody for joining in over there. The reason I thought that Ice actually went to Cal State Long Beach was because he hosted a slave auction, and then Neil was actually
oh man.
Yeah, in the chat, guess what dollar amount he was auctioned for?
Yep, I mean account for inflation and tax. So, anyways,
forget the whole thing.
Let me go to Adrien. So, Adrien, any final thoughts for you, or any parting words for our viewers out there?
Honestly, I mean, this is a cool experience. It's really great. I just gotta say, obviously, but I just want to say thank you. Thank you to Glenn. Thank you for starting FG. I mean, just thank you. I mean, I know it wasn't like you specifically, but at the end of the day, you did help out, and you were a part of history. Shout out to like your board, shout out to like PASA back then. It's crazy. Like I wouldn't have had the college experience that I had, my 4 years if, friendship games didn't exist. I feel like friendship games really helped, build PASA and help PASA grow into like a bigger thing than it was back in the day. So like, it's just crazy. And to me, to this day, it's honestly astonishing to me, like how big PASA and how big friendship games actually is when it comes to, and considering that it's just like a club on campus and that we get to do all those kind of things. I think that's really cool. It's honestly, it's a great honor to talk to you. It's cool to like reconnect and to touch upon like our experiences, you all the way back in the past, and me like now considering that it's virtually too. I just thought this whole experience is really cool. Thank you, Neil. Thank you, Edwin, for helping organize this and bringing this together. So it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, this is what we're about, man. Just building the connections, making sure people understand, how things began, how we can improve and build bridges and connections from there. So, Glenn, what about you?
Hey, I just wanted to say thank you, Neil. Thank you, Edwin. Thank you, Adrien. For the opportunity to, talk the story about the history of the friendship games. It's bringing back to light. Just some quick acknowledgments to my family and friends that they've come on to support the Irvine boys, my brother Jerry, my cousin George Cutorian, who's actually the Tumaco guy we talked about earlier, Neil Estrada.
What's up, George?
Yeah, and my family, my wife Malou, who, like I said, because I love of my life, and I met her through PASA because of my brother-in-law who helped start these friendship games, Mike Villa. So yeah, I mean, I'm blessed. I can't complain, and I'm glad because my girls get to carry this forward. So it's all good.
Well, I want to say thank you to all the viewers that are out there for supporting FILAM and what we do. Thank you specifically to Adrien, current president of PASA, Glenn, one of the originators of the friendship games, Edwin, my partner in crime over at FILAM. And I have one thing to admit, as heavily as involved as I was in the friendship games, I didn't play one game, not one. The only game I played was the waiting game. You know what I mean? So anyways, it was the I Spy game, and the guys would know what that is. I know my wife's listening, so shout out to you, Kate. I mean, that was a long time ago, so forgive me. Don't kick my butt after I'm off the podcast. But once again, we are FILAM, Filipino Influential Leaders and Mentors. This is episode 2, the Friendship Games from the beginning. Peace. We're out. Good night. Happy Thanksgiving. We love you all.